I wanted to throw at you 4 things that you should be thinking about when you write your paper 2 and your paper 3. And I've got one at the end that you definitely want to avoid. So we're going to start off. It's IB history. You've learned a lot over 2 years. You need to know your stuff. And if you're wondering what stuff you need to know, get yourself to the history guide. You can Google it, 2020 IB history guide. A lot of people have dropped it online. Your teachers have probably supplied it to you. Know the bullets on the history guide for the topics that you're covering. So you can see next to me here, we're looking at the Cold War for paper 2. It's topic 12. There are 6 bullets that you've got to be aware of. It is from those 6 bullets that questions are going to be written. A lot of times students are looking for examples of past questions. You don't need to find every question that's ever been written. It's pretty much in the history guide. Take those bullets and turn them into questions. So for example, the impact of 2 leaders, each chosen from a different region on the course and development of the Cold War. That is literally a paper 2 question that you could be asked. So turn those bullets into questions. And if you think you could answer those questions in a 45-minute essay, you're going to be ready for the IB exam. If not, do some studying and know your stuff. Of course, you can play the statistic game, and you can recognize that you are going to be given 2 questions for each topic within both paper 2 and paper 3. So you could avoid one of the bullets that you're not particularly strong with when you're doing your review, but that could limit your options. I love my students to go in feeling good about 2 questions so they can pick the one that they are absolutely strongest with. Number 2, plan your writing, be organized. If you spend at least 5 to 10 minutes of that 45-minute window writing an essay to plan and organize your essay and the arguments that you're going to be using, make sure you know what each paragraph is going to be about before you start actually writing your paper will be more successful. It's one of the first things we readers are going to notice is how well structured is your essay. And well-structured essays come from essays that have been planned and organized beforehand. Now, don't go too crazy with this. No need to write your entire essay or every detail in your essay in your outline, because you still only are going to have that 45-minute window to write your paper 2. So definitely plan. No need to overdo it. Just know the structure of your paper, know your major arguments before you actually start writing your paper. Write thematically. Whatever your question happens to be, we want to avoid writing a narrative history, which is going to be, that history that says this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. We don't want to go there. You are going to develop arguments based on themes that can help answer your question. So develop those thematic claims that, for paper 2 especially, are combining the 2 main topics that you're planning on writing about. For example, if you are writing about 2 leaders during the Cold War and you are choosing Kennedy and Khrushchev, each paragraph should be addressing both Kennedy and Khrushchev. If you're comparing them, talk about the similarities, similarity number 1, similarity number 2, and then you'll get into a couple different paragraphs. But if you are just planning on writing 2 mini essays, one on Khrushchev and then one on Kennedy, your paper is going to be lacking those effective links, and you're going to be dropped down a little further on the rubric scale. So write thematically, develop the themes that you're going to be writing about, and each paragraph should be addressing the themes and both of the topics that you are dealing with in your paper. High scores come from a combination of historical knowledge and analytical writing. Historical knowledge matters, but you need to push to the highest mark bands. You need analysis in your writing. When you are including your historical knowledge as evidence and support for whatever your arguments are, think about the why of the history. I encourage my students to imagine, a little version of me on their shoulder, annoying them as they're writing these papers, asking them, why did that happen? Okay, you're telling me that Kennedy did this, or you're telling me that Khrushchev made that choice. Why did he make that choice? Or maybe what arguments exist about why he made that choice? If you are not giving the why of history, you are just writing a narrative, and it is going to be challenging for you to get to the highest mark bands of this paper. Having analysis is also going to push you into the chance of having an evaluation of different perspectives. Now, this is something that bogs a lot of students down. This does not necessarily mean you need to be name dropping historians. As IB graders, we often see a lot of students that have been programmed to drop in specific historians' names and, even quotes of something that they said. That is not necessary for the IB exam, and it's really not realistic for students to have a laundry list of historians for every topic they could possibly be writing about. You really just need to evaluate the different historical perspectives and arguments that are out there. So maybe for one of your pieces of historical knowledge that you have, you might understand 2 or 3 reasons. For example, Harry Truman decided to ultimately drop an atomic bomb. As you are laying out those reasons, that analysis, you will give some evaluation. Which of those reasons do you think are stronger candidates and why? Which do you think are weaker and why? That's going to push you to the highest mark bands. And now the thing to avoid. This happens as I'm reading each year. I will come across a handful of these papers, and it crushes me because I can feel like this student might have walked out of this testing room feeling so confident about what they wrote, and then they go and talk to their friends, and then it hits them. They wrote on the wrong topic, or maybe the wrong time period. Know your topics. Know what your school has had you study. Be very careful when you go into that testing room, and your anxiety might be a little bit higher because you might see, for example, that question on topic 2 about, the development or the cause of wars. And you're like, I am so ready to talk about World War I, and I am so ready to talk about the Vietnam War. And you miss that topic 2 questions must live from the period 750 to 1500. Your paper will be destroyed before you even start writing it. So know your topics. For my own students, when we study topics 11 and 12, I don't even want them to look at topics 1 through 10. Just ignore it. We haven't studied that stuff. Stay away from it. Unless you know that you wrote an IA or an EE that fits into one of these other topics, just ignore them and look only at the questions that you and your school have prepared for. Beyond that, within your question, make sure you're paying very close attention for requirements for regional options. If you are told to write about 2 leaders or 2 wars from different regions, pay close attention to that. If you don't follow that, you are essentially cutting your score in half or more. It could even be worse than that. So do not write about Kennedy and Castro if there is a regional requirement to your question. Pay attention to the topic, pay attention to what the question is asking, and knock this test out of the park. Take care.